What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor, and I started this YouTube channel to share my own personal recovery journey. I share free resources, suggestions, coping mechanisms, everything that I've learned since I've been on my healing journey for almost 4 years now. I was going through my YouTube list of long videos and my playlist, and I realized that I have not made a long video on my experiences with steps 8 and 9 in Alcoholics Anonymous, which are the amends steps. And so I would like to share my personal experience with how I work through these steps. Step 8 says, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Keyword, willing. So it's not asking us to make the amends right then, right? It's saying we became willing, that we're willing to make the list and we're becoming willing to make amends to them all. And step 9 says, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, the way these steps are worded can be very confusing for people, because I know that it was confusing for me. I went in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous for over a decade. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, that's the reason they suggest getting a sponsor. Now, sponsors are human beings, right? They don't know everything. So I've had 2 different sponsors since I've been attending Alcoholics Anonymous. And the first sponsor I had, it didn't even dawn to me to add my kids on my amends. And the reason being is because I just assumed that they should know I'm sorry because I'm their mother and I love them. Okay? That's bullshit, first of all. So my first go around with my first sponsor, everyone I did an amends with was basically dead, because my spouse, who I've been with for like 12 years, there was no doing a written amends, no verbal amends with him. I had said I'm sorry for so many times. Like, I had written so many letters to him promising I would never drink again, that he stopped reading them. Like, it was just full of shit for me to say the words, I am sorry. I have said those words my entire life, okay? I've even said, like, I'm sorry when there's, like, no reason to even say I'm sorry at all. There have been times, like, in my past, before my healing journey, that I would be sitting on the sofa and with my spouse, and like things would just be really silent, and I would look at him and I'd be like, are you mad at me? Did I do something? And he would just look at me like, what is wrong with you? And I realized, like, with growing and with healing and doing all the shadow work and inner work that I've been doing the past 3.5 years, is that it was something within myself. It had nothing to do with him. There were things going on within me that I was battling. And so I felt like other people thought something was wrong with me because I felt like something was wrong with myself, okay? So I avoid the words, I am sorry, today, because those words don't mean anything to me. Because if a person is truly sorry, they're not going to do it again. So, like, if somebody tells me, I'm sorry I treated you that way, and then they treat me the same way, they're really not sorry, okay? And that's how I feel, and that's how I think. So I avoid saying I'm sorry, and I also would apologize about things that didn't even need to be apologized. Be like, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry. And it was because the way I saw myself, I thought other people saw me that way. So I was basically people pleasing. It's a form of people pleasing when people constantly say I'm sorry when there's no reason to say I'm sorry. And so in today, right, in present time, when people constantly apologize for things when there's no reason to apologize, it activates me inside. They're not activating me, okay? Let me make that very clear. It's not them that's activating me. It's a reflection of who I used to be and why I used to say that I was constantly sorry for no reason, and how I felt internally when I would constantly apologize for things that didn't even need an apology. I wanted people to like me. I didn't want people to think any negative thing about me. So that's why I would do it. And so it's never about the other person. And that's what I've learned since I've been in recovery. It's a reflection of what's going on internally with me. And so back to the topic of the amends is like, I had to make a living amends with my spouse because actions speak louder than words. And it took about 2 years, maybe about 2 years of me being in recovery for things to get completely 100% better, for him to see that, hey, she's serious this time. So like, healing takes time, especially when it comes to like family relationships, whatever type of relationships. It takes time. So I had to make a living amends, and that's, like I said, actions speak louder than words. So there was no doing a verbal amends the first time around to my spouse or anything like that. And so everybody I made an amends to had passed away. And that was hard for me to do because I typed a letter. And this is the thing about making amends letters, right? I didn't just type one letter and that was it for me. I consistently over time typed many, many, many letters, okay? And I'll say this, and this is my own personal experience. I was fine typing the letter, okay? But when I went to read that letter, that's when it would really hit me. And I would start crying. And I had to allow myself to feel those feelings and to cry, because there's something powerful for me with actually saying what I write, okay? And so the second sponsor I got, which was later on in my recovery, I was in a different place in my recovery. A lot of growth had taken place. I had realized I didn't make an amends to my children. And so I was able to make an amends to 2 of my children. I have 3. And, you know, I realized why it took me so long to make this video is because I never really made, yes, I made the amends to my children, but one of my children had caused a lot of pain, a lot of chaos because she was suffering, and a lot of pain had happened, and I had so much resentment towards her. I was so angry at her. She had moved out, and I knew that I had a part to play in it. I knew that there were things that I could have done differently. I could have said differently. I knew there were times that stress hijacked my brain, fear hijacked my brain. Like, I knew all these things, but the pain that she had caused me broke my heart so bad that where I was in my healing stage is I never want to talk to her again. I never want to see her again. There is no way I will ever be able to look at her the same. And that was pure anger, okay? Pure heartbreak. And this was about a year ago, okay? And I kept working my recovery. I kept working on that. I kept doing intentions for her, sending her people to, good, healthy people. I kept working my recovery. And I would go this past year, and I would go to hit record, and I would try to make an amends to see where I was at with the amends process, and I would be so angry, okay? So angry, and I would be like, well, if you didn't do this, then I wouldn't have done that. And then I would just stop recording because I knew I wasn't in a place to make an authentic amends. And I must have tried this a handful of times, okay, the past year. And about a month and a half ago, somebody had came into my life that was struggling with their teenager the way I struggled with mine. And I noticed myself talking differently about the painful situation I went through with my teenager to this individual. And it really made me step back and self-reflect on, like, where am I at on this healing process? Because before, when I used to talk about it, I would be angry, like exploding inside, just angry. But I wasn't angry as I was talking about the situation. I was talking about it in such a healthier way, such more of a loving and compassionate way. And so after I got done talking with this individual, I put my phone down and I was already outside for my nighttime routine. And I look up at the sky and I throw my hands up and I'm like, what are you trying to show me? You continuously put people in my life that are going through the same experiences that I went through and that I'm still kind of going through with my teenager. Like, why? And I was feeling like frustrated. And I paused and I sat in silence, and my intuition, and some choose to call it a higher power, I like to call it the voice, said, it's a reflection of what you have not healed within yourself. And it hit me really deep. And I knew to pick up my phone and to hit record to see where I was at in my healing process with the amends that I had been trying to make to my teenager for over a year. I started this recording with no expectations of sending it, just to see where I was at in my heart. And it ended up being a 30-minute recording. And during the whole entire time, I had not 1 ounce of anger, not any resentment. I had love, compassion. I empathized with her. I took full responsibility on my part, and I mean thorough responsibility, which was painful, okay? It was not fun. Taking responsibility is a very painful thing to do. And recovery's taught me how to do that, and it's taught me how to feel that pain without judgment, without criticism, without, I should have done this, I could have done this, well, what if I would have done this? It's taught me to accept my pain, to hear my pain, to see my pain, and to understand my pain, and most importantly, to feel my pain and to process it. And I was able to do that. And when I hit the end button to stop recording, my intuition said, send it. And so I sent it. And she made an amends back to me. And that is why it's taken me so long to speak on my experience authentically on steps 8 and 9, because that was my first real authentic amends that I have made since I have been in recovery. And it took me almost a year to work through the resentment, the dissociation, the anger, the heartbreak. Like, those things were blocking me from being able to truly make a sincere, compassionate, loving amends. And I've learned that a person cannot make an authentic amends if they have 1 ounce of anger in their heart, 1 ounce of resentment, or even doubt, or even if they're still in the blaming stage or in denial. And I speak for myself. And so that's what it means to make an authentic amends, is to feel and to truly forgive that person, and to be able to empathize with that individual's suffering. And yes, it's my daughter. And I know that people go through things and have horrible things that happen to them that sometimes it's just hard to forgive. I hear that. I get that. I know people are abused and all types of different things that happen. I understand that. But I also had to forgive myself in the part that I played with the entire situation that happened. And that was painful in itself. And so I could not make amends to other people until I had made an amends to myself. And that took probably about 1.5 years into recovery, until I truly forgave myself for the harm that I had caused myself and others and my children. That was the hardest part, making amends to myself, learning how to love myself, learning how to forgive myself, learning how to let go of the resentment towards myself. And like I've stated in probably every single video I've made, I had to change the way I talk to myself. I had to recite a lot of intentions, okay, a lot. I had to encourage myself, support myself, motivate myself. And I have made so many amends letters to myself. And they changed over time. They got better and better and better and less painful and less painful. But I was also working my recovery. I was doing everything that I could do to heal myself because I was so tired of hating myself. I was so tired of living in suffering. And so recovery is a process, you know. There are people that I will never be able to make an amends to. So I learned to make an amends to myself by taking responsibility for my actions and learning to forgive myself. That's the solution right there. You know, I can't force, and that's what I realized with the amends to my teenager, is that I was so blocked from the pain that she had caused me that I couldn't even look at her as my daughter. And what I also realized is that also stems from what my mother did to me as a child as well. So it's family dysfunction repeating itself. Out of sight, out of mind is how my mother was and still is, because she's not a part of my life. You know, and if I wouldn't have been in ACA, Adult Children's of Alcoholics and Dysfunctions, I would have never been able to come to that realization that I was doing the same exact thing to my teenage daughter that my mother did to me. And it is painful to look at. It's painful to see reality. And it's painful to see those unhealthy behaviors, those unhealthy survival mechanisms that I put up to protect myself from future pain, even though it was my own daughter. You know, I even convinced myself she's just a human being. You know, things like that to try to make my pain not be as painful as it was. But that's the beauty of recovery to me, is being able to identify these things in myself. Because if I can become self-aware of them, guess what? I have the power to change them. But if I'm never self-aware, then I am just repeating my family dysfunction, passing it along from generation to generation to generation. So today I am grateful that I have the courage to face who I had become and to still face the things that's still being revealed within myself. You know, there's only two paths to take in this life, the path of suffering or the path of healing. Only two paths. You know, and yes, it's painful to take an honest look at myself. Yes, it's painful to admit where I was wrong, where I could have done things differently. It's like a knife just stabs me in the heart, but it's necessary for growth. It's necessary to feel that pain in the heart and to process that pain and to talk to myself nicely when I feel that pain. So, an amends is a process, and sometimes we don't get to make the amends we want. Sometimes the other person doesn't react the way we feel they should react, and that's another thing. There should be no expectations when making amends. No expectations at all. An amends is for us. It's for me. It's for my inner peace. For my inner peace. Just as I sent that recording to my teenager, I didn't expect her to respond. I sent it for myself. I was grateful that she responded, of course, with an amends of her own. I was not expecting that. Like I said, I had no expectations. The amends was for myself. I had been carrying that around for almost a year. and it was weighing me down, and I didn't even realize it until I had did the amends. But I had a lot of emotions I had to feel and process, and I had a lot I had to work through before I could really do that authentic amends. And so I hope this video can help newcomers or whoever, even if you've never been in addiction and you follow me. The most important amends I had to make was to myself before I could really make authentic amends to other people. You have the power within yourself to make the choices and the changes that you want to happen. And so do I. Believe in yourself.